We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara and Meseches Shevuos. This is Shevuos Daf 11a. And the previous Talmud Rabbah taught the teaching of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that when it comes to public karbonos, let's say they aren't used on time because the public karbonos were brought from the funds that were donated to the Beis HaMikdash, and so the halach is that they had to be brought from the funds of that particular year. So let's say the year ended, you had some extra animals that weren't able to be brought. So Rabbi Yochanan said that they're able to be redeemed. Even though they have no blemish, you can redeem those animals, and then you repurchase the animals, and you can bring them, you can use them for that year. And again, Rabbah brought down that teaching of Rabbi Yochanan, and when Rav Chisda heard that teaching, he said to Rabbah, how could that be? Where did the Kedusha go? How could you redeem this animal if there's no mum? There's halachas, you can't redeem an animal without a mum. Rabbah was saying, Rabbi Yochanan was saying that you could redeem by public karbonos specifically. And so Rabbah responded to Rav Chisda and said, I'll prove it to you that you can redeem it, because we find the same halacha by the ketores. When it comes to the ketores, you have extra, you can redeem it. Same basic scenario. And so therefore you see that that's a possibility when it comes to something that is public. And Rav Chisda now responds and says, how can you bring a proof from the ketores? The ketores is different to Kedushas Damim, because that's Kedushas Damim. That's not Kedushas Haguf, something that's brought in the Mizbeach. That just is Kadosh. It has holiness for its value. Rashi explains, the Kedushas Damim ain't ba ella Kedushas Damim. It just has Kedushas Damim. Shalocha mi Trumas Halishka. It was purchased from the funds of the Trumas Halishka. Avol bekli lo kitcha, but it wasn't sanctified in a vessel. The Tikdash Kedushas Haguf, that now it has Kedushas Haguf, like let's say the animals that were consecrated. The Machdeshes Shenishcheka ba lav kli sharisi, because that mortar that it was ground in, when you ground the ketores up, so that's not a kli sharis. That's what the Gemara is answering right now, and therefore it's just a Kedushas Damim. That's why it's able to be redeemed. But the Gemara continues and asks, Ela me'ata, but according to that, if you're saying that the ketores is just Kedushas Damim, so loti pasel b'tvul yom, so then it shouldn't become disqualified from a tvul yom. A tvul yom is somebody who immersed that day. He's not completely pure. He's still waiting for the night to come, so it shouldn't be disqualified if it just has Kedushas Damim. Allah Matanya, why did we learn in a brayso nasna v'bachteshes, that once it's put into the machteshes, into the mortar, nifselis b'tvul yom, so then at that point it can become disqualified by a tvul yom. That would seem to indicate that it has something more than Kedushas Damim. Now, if you're going to say Kol Kedushas Damim Mifsali B'Tvul Yom, maybe you'll try to argue that by Kedushas Damim in general, all situations of Kedushas Damim, they're able to be disqualified by a Tvul Yom. But we learned in the Mishnah, this is in Me'ilah, HaMenachos Mo'alin Bohen, when it comes to Menachos, and Rashi explains here, HaMenachos is Minchas Yochid. We're talking about the mincha of an individual. So Mo'alin Bohen Misha Huktashu. So from when they are sanctified, that's when you can have Me'ilah already. Rashi explains, Mo'alin Behen Misha Huktashu, once they're consecrated to Kedushas Damim Bas Me'ilah, even though it wasn't in any vessel, it only has a Kedushas Damim. Already at that point in time, it's subject to Me'ilah. Me'ilah is when a person uses something that is kachim, but he uses it for personal use. And so that Aveira can be committed already from that moment. But Kidshu Bekli, but then once it's actually sanctified in a vessel, so then Huchsharu, then already it's preparedly Pasal B'Tvul Yom, Uva Mechusar Kippurim Uvalina. At that point in time, it can now become disqualified if it's touched by a Tvul Yom, or a Mechusar Kippurim. Also somebody who's not completely pure, he still has to bring his atonement, he has to bring his carbon. And Ubalina can also be disqualified, Balina, if it stays overnight. And so you see over here that the psol of Tvul Yom, Nifselis B'Tvul Yom, is specifically after it was sanctified in a vessel, meaning it does not apply when it only has Kedushas Damim. Kitsho B'Kli in, lo Kitsho B'Kli lo, only if it was sanctified in a vessel is it possible B'Tvul Yom, but otherwise not. And so therefore, if it has to have that Kedushas Haguf, so now we're back to our question. We have a brayso that says that the Ketores could be Nifselis B'Tvul Yom. That implies that it has a Kedushas Haguf. But the Gemara continues and asks, Elamai, so what are you going to say? Kedushas Haguf, you're going to now say that when it comes to the Ketores, it has a Kedushas Haguf. But if that's true, Elamayata, but according to that, Tipasa Belina, so then it should be disqualified, even if it stays overnight. Aloma Tanan, so why is it that we learn in the Mishnah, Hakometz v'halavona v'haketores u'minchas kohanim u'minchas kohen mashuach u'minchas nesachim, when it comes to the kometz of a carbon mincha, the lavona, the frankincense, the Ketores, the minchas kohanim, the mincha of the kohen who's mashuach, the anointed kohen, the Minchas Nesachim, all of those Moalim Bohem Mishahuktashu. Again, there is Me'ilah from the moment that they are consecrated, that they are sanctified. Kidshu B'kli, and then when they are consecrated in a vessel, Huchshu Lipasal B'Tvul Yom Uv'Mechusar Kippurim Uvalina. So then at that point in time, they are ready to be disqualified by a Tvul Yom or Mechusar Kippurim or Belina, or if it stays overnight. And so again, Kidshu B'chli in, lo Kidshu B'chli lo, it seems to be that only if it's sanctified in a vessel, and if it's not sanctified in a vessel, so then it's not going to be disqualified Belina. And Rashi explains, Katani miha, nevertheless, what does it say over here? It says Ketores in this list, the Katani Kidsho B'kli, but it specifically says that it has to be sanctified in a vessel. Now you have to say that the Baraisa we quoted earlier by the Kedushas Machteshes, that's talking about again that it's sanctified when the mortar is sanctified with a Machteshes, there it said Nifselis B'tvul Yom, there it said it is disqualified by a Tvul Yom. V'lo tanalina, and it doesn't say lina over there. V'hacha tanalina, and here it does mention that there's a disqualification of lina. Shmamina, so what do you see from all of this? You see that kedushas kli dahacha lav machteshasi, that over here, when we talk about kedushas kli, we're not talking about the mortar. Ela kli shebeshas haktara, we're talking about the vessel at the time that you're actually burning the ketores. Dumya de kometz ulavona, similar to the kometz and the lavona. Ushar hashinuyim kanima, and the other things that are learned over here in this list. Alma machteshas lo mikdash alei Kedushas Haguf. So you see the Machteshas does not create a Kedushas Haguf. And the Gemara continues, Amar Le, he said back to him, Lino Ka'amrit, you're talking about the disqualification, that it stays overnight. Shani Ketores, it's different by the Ketores. Hoel Vitsurasa B'chol Hashana Kula, since it keeps its form the entire year, it's not something that deteriorates as time goes on, and that's why it doesn't have a Psul Lina. And Rashi explains, Hoel Vitsurasa Ina Mishanes Marisa, doesn't change how it looks. Hilkach, therefore, Afagav de Kedushas Hagufi, even though it actually is a Kedushas Haguf, Lo Mifsala Belina, there is no disqualification of lina, but Rashi notes umiu, but nevertheless mishakitsha beklili karev, once it's already sanctified in a vessel to be offered, so then gazer barabana, and then the Rabbana just made a gezerah psul lina that there's a disqualification of lina deal ma'asi lachshuri b'shar miskachin bekli, because then people might come to say it's kosher by other items that are sanctified in a vessel, and so in any case the Gemara now is suggesting that actually again when it comes to the ketores it is in fact kedushas haguf. But the Gemara continues and then asks, Mikol Makom Kasha, but nevertheless, if we are going to say that it's Kedushas Haguf by the Ketores as well, so we're back to our original question. V'chi Kedusha Shaban, La'echan Halcha, where does their Kedusha go? Meaning to say, how is it possible to redeem it? Again, when it comes to the public Karbanos, there's no mum, that should not be able to be redeemed. When it comes to the Ketores as well, it's Kedushas Haguf, you shouldn't be able to redeem it. Rashi explains, Mikol Makom Kasha Kedusha Shaban, La'echan Halcha, again, we still have that difficulty. Where does the Kedusha go? Bein B'tzmidin, Bein B'Ketoris, whether we're talking about the Carbon Tamid, whether we're talking about the Ketoris, how does the redemption work? And the Gemara continues and answers, Amar Rabba says, the way it works is as follows, Leiv Bezdin Masna Alehen, the heart of Bezdin, meaning the Bezdin is able to make this condition. Im Hutzruchu, it's Hutzruchu, if it's necessary, if they're needed for this year, then you bring it. V'im Lav, and it's like there's a condition, there's a stipulation, if not, Yiyu L'Demeyan. So then it's just going to be sanctified for its value, which is something that is redeemable. Rashi explains, Leif Bezdin Masna Aleim B'Shas L'Kich, at the time that they're taken to Lo Liktashu Kedushas Haguf, that they shouldn't have this Kedushas Haguf, Ela Hatzrichin L'Shana, only if it's needed for this year. V'chol Midei Detzibor Nosnin Bezdin Leif, this is on anything that's public, this is what the Bezdin has, this stipulation, and that's actually how it works. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Abaye said to him, V'hamar hu da'amar, but didn't the master say, Rashi says, V'hamar hu da'amar b'Meseches Temura, didn't the master say, didn't you Rabbi say in Meseches Temura, Hiktish Zachar l'damav, let's say a person, he sanctifies a Zachar, a male ram, l'damav, for its value, so Kadosh, Kedushas Haguf, it actually does have Kedushas Haguf, l'damav doesn't help when it comes to animals that are roy l'hakrava, that can be brought on the Mizbeach. Rashi explains, Hiktish Zachar l'damav, Hiktish Ayil l'damav, a person sanctifies a ram for its value, Kadosh Kedushas Haguf, it has sanctity, inherent sanctity. Ve'eno nimkar, it can't be sold, me'achar sheikdisha, once it was sanctified. V'u'atzmo roy l'hakrava, it itself is fit to go on the Mizbeach, Eino yotzi midei Mizbeach, so it can't come out of that status. It now has that Kedushas Haguf. So here also, Lamai Mahani, to know the Leiv Bezin. How does it help that the Bezin makes a stipulation? Even if they said that it should be Kedushas Damim, it's going to end up having that Kedushas Haguf. So how does this even work if in general, anytime something that's royal hakrava, automatically has that Kedushas Haguf. And the Gemara continues and answers, Lokash is not difficult. Hada Amar Lidmei Ola, in one case, you say Lidmei Ola for the value of an Ola. If you say the value of an Ola and it's fit to be an Ola, so then it has Kedushas Haguf. But Hada Amar Lidmei Nesachim, but in the other scenario, like over here we're talking where the stipulation, or what you're saying is that it should be for the value of Nesachim. Now Nesachim, libations, animals cannot be libations. So if you say that it actually will just have Kedushas Damim, and that's the way that they make the stipulation. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei Abaye asks a question from the following Brisa. Par usoyer shel Yom HaKippurim, when it comes to the par and the seir, the bull and the goat of Yom Kippur, Sha'avdu, they were lost, V'hifresh acherim tachteim, and then a person separated others instead of those that were lost. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis.